Alright, we're back in the cafe. What are these? Kilogram per... is that square centimeter? Yeah, it is. Huh. You can see outside to that thing down there. Still not quite sure what it is. Is there anything we can do up here? Keep the balance. You're overdue this week, said Ned. He tapped the list of rules that Medicap posted by the door. This 24-hour rule, are you sure you've been enforcing it? I can unlock it, but before we do that, let's look at the other stuff first. Maddie's inbox. From Jeanette Annette. John Bean 19 at yahoo.com. Subject, Spirit Beacon leaking. Date, January 25th, 2014, 7:30:58 a.m. I don't have this yet, I don't have this either. So that's a no. What is this? Advisory role. Maddie was washing her hands when Ashley poked her head around the corner. Here to confess something or here to ask for something, thought Maddie to herself as dried her hands and turned to face the girl. The grin. No papyrus. Alright, what is this? Delicate operation. Ashley stopped behind the counter and winced as the floor creaked under her feet. Maddie was nowhere to be seen, but Maddie did possess a remarkably sharp sense of hearing. Luckily, the cafe was empty as Ashley can also unlock that, so that's nice. Billiards. Brad took a sip from his beer. It was non-alcoholic, but there was something about the taste that put him in the perfect state of ease and alertness. Maybe it was the placebo effect. Maybe it was the fact that his... Okay, anything down here? No. Can't open that door, I assume? Nope. And that's it. So we'll unlock this first. Oh, there you go. Ashley stepped behind the counter and winced as the floor creaked under her feet. Maddie was nowhere to be seen, but Maddie did possess a remarkably sharp sense of hearing. Luckily, the cafe was empty as Ashley tiptoed to the case where Maddie kept the baked goods. Ashley lifted the glass lid of the case and closed her eyes as the scent of yesterday's lamingtons wafted up and overwhelmed her. Ashley had spent most of her life convinced that she didn't like coconuts, but that had changed the day that Jay introduced her to lamingtons. To be fair, Ashley still wasn't sure that she actually liked coconut chocolate frosting, but... chocolate. Frosting... Alright. To be fair, Ashley still wasn't sure that she actually liked coconut. Chocolate frosting could make anything taste good, but she couldn't deny the cake's irresistible allure. Ashley lifted the lamington from the case and gently set the lid back down. She raised the lamington to her lips and opened her mouth to take a bite. Ashley? In a moment of panic, Ashley shoved the pastry into her mouth and sealed her lips. Her mouth was quickly overwhelmed by the pastry's thick frosting covering, and she did her best to choke it down before turning to face Maddie. Said Ashley, hoping that her cheeks didn't betray what was inside. Ah, good, you're here, said Maddie. It was a bad sign anytime Maddie expressed pleasure at seeing Ashley. Normally Maddie wavered between being annoyed by Ashley's presence and being indifferently tolerant of her. Anytime Maddie was happy to see Ashley, it meant work. I need you to deliver something to Jay for me, said Maddie, turning to the counter to pick up a small bottle of something. As Maddie turned her attention to the bottle, Ashley took advantage of a momentary distraction to gulp down the remainder of the pastry. No time to chew, but her teeth wouldn't have done much good with the thick frosting. You're not busy, are you? Said Maddie. Ashley shook her head, no. The pastry was no longer inside her mouth to create a conspicuous bulge of cheeks, but opening her mouth would reveal the thick chocolate frosting that was still probably present on her teeth, so she kept her lips sealed. Good, said Maddie. He's upstairs. Get this to him as soon as possible. She handed the bottle to Ashley, and Ashley found herself surprised by how light the bottle was. Looking down, she could see that the bottle had thin walls. Within those thin walls, it contained some clear liquid, and its seal was held in place with a metal clamp, hermetically sealed. Ashley turned towards the stairs, holding the neck of the bottle in one hand, and let out a sigh. One last thing. Ashley swallowed her sigh with a gulp and closed her mouth before facing Maddie, lips tightly shut. Be careful not to drop it, said Maddie. Thousands could die if you spill any of it. In any other situation, Ashley would have asked Maddie a probing question to figure out what was in the bottle or get some idea of the significance of the task that had been assigned to her. Significant enough that thousands of lives held in the balance, but apparently not important enough for Maddie to do it herself. But Ashley's lips remained sealed, and she merely nodded and turned around. Lamingtons were not meant to be consumed in a single bite, especially by mouths as small as Ashley's, and the thickness of the frosting that lingered in her mouth and throat made her desperate to ask for some kind of drink, but she dared not ask for one. Ashley looked down at the bottle, unsure of the best way to carry it. The bottle was slightly too large for her to hold in just one hand, and grasping it in front of her with two hands felt awkward. The bottle wasn't heavy, but Ashley's confidence in her ability to carry the bottle without dropping it was less than perfect. Should she cradle it under her arm protectively? No, that seemed like it put her at greater risk of fumbling the bottle. The crook of her elbow wasn't as dexterous as her fingertips. She settled for carrying the bottle with one hand placed under the bottom to hold the weight, and the other hand wrapped around the neck to steady it. Ashley walked slowly with the bottle as she ascended the stairs. Maddie hadn't told her that the liquid was volatile, and the bottle was hermetically sealed, so there was zero chance of anything spilling out, but that didn't change the sense of trepidation Ashley felt. Armed with the knowledge that there were potentially thousands of lives at stake, she cringed every time she saw the liquid sloshing inside the bottle, leaping up and lapping at the edge of the seal. Ashley realized her arms were shaking and pressed the bottle against her chest, hoping to steady it. As Ashley's hands shook nervously with the bottle held against her chest, she wondered if the large amount of sugar she had just forced down her throat had something to do with the shaking. It was more likely that her shaking was the result of being told that thousands of lives could be lost if she dropped the bottle. Nah, it's definitely sugar. Still, the lingering taste of the pastry in her mouth didn't help. Ashley silently lamented the fact that she had been forced to consume the lamington so abruptly. Lamingtons were a treat to be savoured, not shoved into one's mouth in a moment of panic. She hadn't even had the chance to properly enjoy it. It was hard to simultaneously feel the pleasure of a tasty treat and the panic of being caught. Whatever the outcome of this errand, she had wasted a wonderful pastry. Several agonizing minutes later, Ashley arrived at the top of the stairs and spotted Che standing at the handrail. As she walked up, Che turned to face her, and she presented him with the bottle. Ashley cleared her throat of any lingering stickiness before speaking. Maddie said he needed this. Oh, good, said Che. I was running low. Ashley gasped with relief as Che took the bottle from her and started taking deep laboured breaths, suddenly becoming aware of how high her heart rate was. Che popped open the seal on the bottle, then splashed some of it onto a rag. Several drops dripped onto the floor, and Ashley let out a terrified squeak. Something wrong? Said Che. Maddie said that thousands of lives could be destroyed by what's in that bottle. Well, that's the idea, said Che as he folded the rag and ran it along the railing that overlooked the cafe's ground level. This is supposed to kill 99.9% of all bacteria. That still leaves hundreds of bacteria alive, but I try not to think too hard about that part. Ashley's jaw dropped. It's disinfectant? Yeah, said Che. Why did Maddie not tell you? Ashley's shoulders slumped in a mix of relief and exasperation. She only told me that it could kill thousands. And you didn't ask what you meant by that? No, said Ashley. I was preoccupied. Huh, said Che. He turned his attention back to the railing, inspecting it for a moment before continuing to wipe it. Ashley turned to head backstairs. By the way, Ashley. Ashley turned to face Che. He reached out and placed a finger on her shirt, wiping off a bit of frosting. He raised it to his finger and smelled it. Chocolate? He said. Yes, said Ashley. One of Maddie's lamingtons? Yes, said Ashley. Che nodded and licked the frosting off his finger. Go downstairs and bring one up for me too, will you? Alright, and now keep the balance. You're overdue this week, said Ned. He tapped the list of rules that Maddie kept posted by the door. This 24-hour rule. Are you sure you've been enforcing it? I think how we run things around here is none of your business, said Maddie. Actually, it absolutely is my business, said Ned. In fact, keeping the rules is basically my only business. That's kind of what the word enforcer means. I'm supposed to scold you for breaking the rules. So, audit me. Fine, said Ned. Let me check your ledger. We don't keep a ledger, said Maddie. Maybe you should, said Ned. Lots of places do. It's a great system. You have someone stand at the door and have them mark down whenever someone comes in or leaves. Then you forcibly evict people who are overstaying their welcome. I'm amazed that you don't have a system like that in place. Some people overstay their welcome, other people understay, said Jay. There's no need to strictly keep track of how long people stay, right? Just maintain the balance. You're right, said Ned. All that matters is maintaining the balance. So maintain the balance, because when you don't, then we have a problem. We're a bit short-staffed to have someone acting as a full-time doorman, said Maddie. Figure it out, said Ned. He tapped the board, listing the rules. Change 24 hours to 23 hours. When you say 24 hours, people think you just colloquially mean one day, and they don't pay attention to the specific time. When you say 23 hours, people actually have to keep track of what time it is. That would be fine, said Jay, except for the part where you're cutting time of people's stay. Trust me, said Ned. Anyone who'd go right up to the limit is probably going to go over it. 24 hours is going to mean 23 hours plus an extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half hour plus however long it takes to finish their drink. And if they leave in less than 24 hours, who gives a shit? I give a shit, said Jay. You're right, you should give a shit, said Ned. In fact, you should celebrate whenever you manage to scooch someone out of here in under 24 hours because the balance is upset and you've got to correct it. You can either correct the balance 1 hour at a time, or the council can come in here and repossess some souls. Or we can find someone who knows how to manage this property reasonably. He turned to Jay. Come on, buddy. I don't want to have to take this place away from you. That would be quite the escalation, said Maddie. Well, you're already on the first level of escalation, which is a stern talking to, said Ned. Let's try not to escalate it any further. Jay sighed. Well, Maddie cut him off. We'll change the rules to 23 hours. Okay? Buzz off. Wow, really? No, it was Ned. Well, okay then. And while you're rewriting the signs, you should also take the green tea frappuccino off the menu. Frapp should be for coffee, not tea. Done, said Maddie. Wait, really? Said Ned. Damn, I didn't realize you were so open to feedback. Also that caramel. I'll take it under advisement, said Maddie, placing a hand on Ned's chest and physically pushing him toward the door. Hold up, said Ned. What are you doing? Removing an unwanted guest, said Maddie. I need to practice if we're going to start enforcing those rules you care so much about. No, said Ned as he continued backpedaling to stay upright. Look, you could just... Bye, said Maddie as Ned crossed the threshold out on the cafe, and Maddie shut the door in his face. She turned around, leaning her back against the door and sighed. Jay raised an eyebrow. You serious about the rule change? Yeah, said Maddie. I'll change the sign on the menu after we close tonight. Wait, really? The rule change is just to keep him off of our back, said Maddie. And the menu thing? I've been meaning to take that off anyway, said Maddie. It's the kind of menu item that attracts the worst sort of people. Well, okay, said Jay. Though I do think we should change the rule back to 24 hours after things have had enough time to balance out. Of course, said Maddie. Wouldn't want to upset the balance too far in the opposite direction. What would we do with all that extra time anyway? Alright. Is that the only thing we can... Oh no. We can explore and go around. Do I have to check all of that again to see if I've got enough memories? Wait, do I have any overview here? Memories? Yes, I do. The Fisherman one is something I can read. Where is it though? Let me find that. There it is. There you go. Maddie was about to leave the counter when an old-looking man pushed the door open. He was hunched over and he walked with a bit of a limp, and even at this distance she could see the leathery texture of his skin, a testament to many years well lived. Maddie had been about to leave the counter to Jay, but there was something in the way the man walked that made her want to stay long enough to see if he had any special requests. She wasn't sure if she would like the man, and in fact she was fairly sure that there was a good chance that she wouldn't have much to say to the man, or much that she would be interested in hearing from him, but it was obvious that the man had paid his dues, and she felt that she owed him at least a few moments of her time. Even if he hadn't done anything in life worth of admiration, he at least had done enough to earn her respect. It was only when the man sat down that Maddie saw that his skin was cracked, but not wrinkled. His body had been aged, but it had been aged by the elements and the sun more than it had been aged by the passage of time. The slight limp in his step could have easily been the limp of a young man who had spent one day too many lifting loads that were 1 kilo too heavy for him. He took the seat directly in front of her. "You serve food here?" Apparently the man was more interested in finding out what was on offer than figuring out where he was. Maddie kept herself from visibly smirking. There was something she liked about guests like that, people whose only question was what was on tap. Maddie glanced at Jay. He gave a nod of assent. Yes, Jay was willing to play the role of grill master today. "We do serve food," she said. The man squinted up at the menu above him. "My eyes don't work too well in this light," he said. "Got a paper menu?" Maddie reached under the counter and pulled out a menu that looked just as aged as the man sitting in front of her. Its scars were from coffee stains, not cuts, but as she watched the man hold the menu, there was something about the combination of the two of them that felt right to her. The man stared at the menu for a good deal longer than it must have taken him to read everything on it. He finally spoke after a long, considered pause. "Do you suppose it would be a problem if I were to order something if I didn't intend to actually eat it?" "That's not the kind of thing that would offend me," said Maddie. Actually, it was exactly the kind of thing that would offend her. Yet there was something in the way that the man asked that made her feel like whatever reason he might have for not eating food he was served, it would be a good one, and she was half interested to find out what the man's reaction would be. "I'll have the grilled halibut," he said. "Ah, halibut," said Maddie. She understood. Many people enjoyed the concept of grilled fish more than they liked it in practice, and if this man knew himself well enough to be upfront and honest about that, she could respect that. "I can't promise that it's never been frozen. I hope that's not a problem," she said. Sure that it wouldn't be. "Sounds like my kind of fish," said the man. "The best halibut swim in cold water. Ain't a problem if that water happens to be in solid form after the halibut passes." She nodded to Jay, who nodded back and headed back to the freezer. The man placed both of his hands on the counter and folded them. There was something serene in the way that the man sat there, with no inclination to glance around and inspect the cafe he was in. No nervous movement in his legs, no strained expression on his face to express that he was waiting for something to happen. He looked so calm that Maddie almost didn't want to disturb him, but she chafed at the idea that only squeaky wheels were deserving of grease. Some wheels were just too polite to ask. "Do you want a drink while you're waiting on that?" I don't think I need a drink, said the man. All right, said Maddie, picking up a whiskey bottle and placing it in his field of view, a reminder of what he was free to ask for. The man squinted. Is that Jack Daniels? Indeed it is, said Maddie. The man's shoulders rose a bit in what looked like barely a chuckle. Got a fondness for that particular drink? It's just that we share the same name, said the man. I'm Jack Daniel. No relation to the distiller. I had several friends who took it upon themselves to check. As you might imagine, I've seen a lot of those bottles over the years. It's the kind of gift that people enjoy giving you when you have a name like that. Is it a gift you enjoyed receiving? It's always a pleasure to receive a gift, said Jack. It's nice to know that you have friends who care about you and think about you. Is it a gift you enjoyed consuming? I had a shelf in my flat where I collected them, waiting for other people to come so I'd have an excuse to open them. Ah, said Maddie, picking up the bottle and placing it below the counter. Sorry if I brought up a bad memory. He laughed. Where's the bad memory? They're good to receive from friends and good to share with friends. Okay. It's a reminder of the people who I was close to and the things I did with them. No need to apologize for that. Maddie smiled. She was beginning to find that she liked Jack, and it seemed like Jack was the kind of person who liked her, if for no other reason than that he liked people, and Maddie was people. She chuckled with him, and she enjoyed the chuckle so much that she almost missed Jack's momentary sideways glance, an unguarded moment when his mind seemed to be on something other than what he was talking about. It was only an instant, but it was a flicker of pain that she learned to recognize over the years. There was something in him that was hurting, even as he remembered his friends. A sense of loss? A regret about something left unsaid? Maddie wasn't sure. Whatever it was none of her business. But she wanted it to be her business. Well, anything you want, just ask, said Maddie. Cup of water. Oh, is that still Maddie speaking? Cup of water, warm glass of milk. Warm glass of milk? How old do you think I am? Maddie shrugged. 5 or 6, just the right age to drink a tall glass of milk before being shooed off to bed at 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm just barely older, said Jack. But if I do want that glass of milk, I guess I know who to ask. Okay. And now we go back to this. Yes, let us continue. Day 2, 12 p.m, the terminal. Rise and shine. Don't wanna. You shouldn't waste your last hours on Earth sleeping. Whoever said I'll have plenty of time to sleep when I'm dead probably had a different idea of how things would play out after death. Man, I was hoping I was having a really long, weird dream. Sorry, no such luck. Some more pedantic magical practitioners are quite bothered by flippant and colloquial use of the word luck. Jay isn't one of them. I'm still having trouble getting my head around it. I totally understand. Want a coffee? Ooh. Yeah, just something simple. Hipster coffee coming right up. What's going on downstairs? I didn't even know you had it downstairs. There's more to this place than meets the eye. Maddie's down there desperately trying to fix her debt situation. Sounds like she's hosting a cage match or something. Well, not exactly. But she's mentioned wanting to do that. There's some wrestler called the Red Comet that she wouldn't stop talking about for a while. And then because of that, Ashley got obsessed with wrestling for a bit and kept trying to suplex me. Ashley's small, so she has to opt for wrestling moves that control the opponent's weight instead of trying to lift them. But she managed to? She's tiny. Couple of times. It was very humiliating, I can imagine. But to properly answer your question, Maddie's running a gambling ring. When you find yourself standing on the brink of death, a wager could be a chance at salvation or the last chance to feel danger. Both of these appeal to different types of patrons. Downstairs? All by yourself? It's a fairly unconventional one. And by unconventional you mean? Mortals generally aren't involved. The stakes are higher than usual. Oh. Coffee's ready. Come over and get it. They gamble for time, among other things. You don't sound like you're a huge fan of the idea. I'm not. It's undignified. I mean, as long as Maddie's not in danger, shouldn't it be fine? The council doesn't like it. They turn a blind eye because you don't cause trouble otherwise. But I'd rather not have to worry about bad things coming our way. Because Maddie refuses to approach the problem from a different angle. By the problem, you mean the debt, yeah? I was pretty drunk, but I think I remember Maddie storming off after Ned turned up. Yes. I'm a bit worried about her. Wish I could help. You all seem pretty nice. The thought's appreciated. Maddie will figure it out eventually, though, I'm sure. She just needs time. Hey, thanks for the coffee, by the way. I just realized you haven't actually made me pay for a bunch of them. How do you expect to pay for them? Oh, right. Yep, no cash. If I were feeling particularly capricious, I'd ask you to pay in time. But you're a nice kid and you need every minute you've got. You wanna head downstairs? I can see your eyes darting to the stairs. I'm not going down, but I'm also not gonna stop you. Yeah, if that's okay. Go on then, I'll stick around here. Catch you in a bit. The stairs that led down to the basement were solid and well worn, with smooth ruts on each step and a handrail that had been polished to a silky sheen through years of use. Kishan had always liked stairwells. People never lingered in them for long, and he'd found them to be a good place to catch a breather. He wasn't obsessed with them. That'd be weird. But he definitely appreciated a nice set of stairs. On further reflection, it was probably a little weird. Downstairs, Maddie's audience clamoured for blood. Even the dead find blood sports compelling. From you to me, with the understanding that your remaining moments in this plane are limited, you surrender this time freely without coercion as agreed. Contract fulfilled, you're free to go. Everything comes at a price. Nothing risked, nothing gained. Phew. That's 3 in a row, you bloodthirsty bastards. The crowd cheered. Maddie was clearly an expert at winding them up into a frenzy. Who's next? The room fell dead silent. Come on, isn't anyone here brave enough to challenge me? I thought you came here to play with knives, you pansies. Seriously? Anyone? Don't hold out on me. Do I need to pick someone out from the crowd then? Is this what we've come to? Maddie's gaze swept the audience. Kishan, good to see you upright. Interested in a game of skill? Me? Yes, you. Oh, sure. Give me some enthusiasm, my man. Sure. What's the game? 5-finger fillet. Some of the people in here just call it the knife game. You heard of it? Oh, finally, something I'm good at. Episode 3, Rise and Shine. You've got a lot of knights in this place. Tell me about it.
Damn, this thing has a good weight to it.
Of course, I wouldn't make you compete with an inferior tool. What?
Sorry, I was waiting for you to segue into calling me an inferior tool.
Shit, that was low-hanging fruit, wasn't it? Next time, mate.
Sure.
Kishan did another experimental slash, and this time it made an audible whoosh. The spectators oohed and awed. But this wasn't for them. He knew that he only had one shot to get accustomed to the blade. You done showing off?
Nothing wrong with putting on a little show.
Sounds like you're stalling for time. Getting cold feet, perhaps?
Psh, not a chance.
Let's get started then. You know what you're wagering?
Jay mentioned something about you gambling with time.
It's not gambling if it's a game of skill. But that's beside the point. We're both wagering 4 hours. If you win, it comes from the cafe's balance. If I win, it comes from yours. You've got around 16 hours left in case you weren't keeping track.
Shit, only that money?
Want a little extra time to play with then?
Hell yes. Let's stop wasting it and get this over with.
You sure you know what you're getting into? Most people are pretty shy about playing with the time they have left, especially when their tank's running as empty as yours.
Yep, come on. Unless you're getting cold feet.
Hardly. You've got 30 seconds. Smack the time when you're ready. The crowd cheered and Kishan fed off their enthusiasm. In response, Maddie leaned back and tapped her finger on the table, feigning impatience. He met her eyes, grinned, and continued his performance. His stabbing motion got faster as he went, the point narrowly missing each of his fingers. Stabs strong enough to drive the knife a millimeter or two into the table were good if you wanted to put on a show. And of course, giving the spectators a show was part of the fun. You might be going fast to put on a show, but you're not going fast enough to win.
How'd I do?
16 sets if I counted correctly.
Whoa. I couldn't do 16?
That's how many Maddie beat me with. Is she gonna lose? Nah, she's gonna kick his ass. Feeling good about that result?
Certainly am.
Rightio then. Watch closely.
Oh, I will.
16. 1. 3. 7. 11. 15.
Told you, she's unbeatable.
Is it magic? She could cheat if she wanted to.
Definitely not, she's just that good.
Poor guy, he didn't know what he was getting into. Sorry, mate.
You beat me fair and square. I'm pretty impressed.
I aim to please. I'll be taking those hours now if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. How does this work?
Just like this. You won't feel a thing. Kishan felt a brief tightness in his chest, and for just a moment the tip of Maddie's finger burned white hot. You can't beat entropy. Anytime you do an energy transfer, there's going to be some amount of energy lost to heat.
Oh, shit.
Someone in the crowd laughed. Sorry, I lied. It's done now, though. Alright. Does anyone else dare to compete with me? Come on, looking for some actual decent opposition here. I'll take any challenge. Even if it's chess or something.
Any challenge? I challenge you to get everyone a drink. Rounds on me.
I didn't realize you were watching. There wasn't anything happening upstairs and I got bored. Right. So, you took some hours from Kishan, huh? Yes, I did. Do you feel good about that? Che. Do you? I won them fair and square. You didn't know what we was getting into. There's an obvious power imbalance here that you're exploiting. Jay isn't one to let you forget the responsibilities that come with power. He knew the rules. That doesn't change anything. You led him to believe that he'd get some extra time. Mehdi knows firsthand how seductive the promise of extra time can be. And, barring a miracle on his part, that absolutely wasn't going to happen. It doesn't matter. He's just passing through. A couple hours won't make any difference. Maddie, I'm disappointed in you. Our patrons respect us. We need to earn that respect by treating them with respect ourselves. This is not respectful or dignified. Cheating vulnerable passers-through out of their time, we're above that. We're better than that. I don't care whether you think it's dishonest or not. I want you to give that poor man his time back. Don't pout, this is serious. I feel like a broken record saying this, but while I understand your intentions are good, you can't keep doing these things. It's all for you. If you really want to do this for me, find another way. This isn't worth it, Manny. It breaks my heart to see you like this, and I know that you're trying your hardest, but this really truly is not worth sacrificing your own self-respect over. Everyone here respects you, but you gambling with hours just cheapens that. I'll give the hours back. Shame, I was pretty great with the knife. Still not as good as me. I was pretty close.
Lovelace.
Yes?
What form did you have before being reborn?
I think I was a crab.
Come on, I'm being serious. Ashley wouldn't harvest spirit liquid from a crab.
You're assuming an awful lot about how squeamish she is. As far as I can remember, I lived above streets next to the sky. So, a bird then? Wings and feathers and such? No, not that. I do remember flying though.
Oh, were you a sugar glider?
Describe.
Did you eat insects and tree sap and flower nectar?
That is familiar. Wonder how Ashley found you then.
Could have been anything really. You mentioned bright lights earlier.
Oof.
Yeah, I'm thinking you got hit by a car.
That seems likely. Is that bad?
I mean, you're here now, so...
Whether you like it or not.
Shut up.
I am still adjusting. Okay, what do we have here? Definitely gambling. Power imbalance, suplex, luck, white hot. What more? Sleeping. Do I remember sleeping? Not really. Blood? An extra time, I think. Let's go with that. A terminal, that's a new one. Magic, also new, I think. Che. Ashley. Magic. And death.